Mike Anderson, a 54-year-old brilliant engineer from San Francisco, traded the city's glamour for a remote Libyan village. What awaited him was a fateful romance with 12 women and the unexpected beginning of a large family. Where will this astonishing story lead? Click the subscribe button now and witness it with us. Your support is our driving force. Mike Anderson, 54. A Stanford University graduate, had a smooth-sailing career as a software engineer at a world-leading tech company in Silicon Valley. He dedicated himself entirely to cutting-edge technology development and project management, living an exceptionally busy life. Colleagues raved about his problem-solving skills and creativity, and his superiors lauded him as the prime candidate for future chief technology officer. Outside the company, he was also known as a successful man. Thanks to a well-off family background, he was financially comfortable. His parents had amassed considerable assets through real estate in the San Francisco Bay Area. However, deep within, Mike harbored a profound emptiness. He had never found true love, never met a partner with whom he could connect spiritually. He met many people at work and in social settings, but most were only interested in his career salary and family background. He tried numerous dating apps and setups, but the women often sought a stable, comfortable lifestyle backed by his wealth. While practical considerations were important, Mike yearned for sincere, heartfelt love, a connection of souls. One day, a childhood friend joked, "You're so well off. What's your problem? Just find someone and settle down." This remark deeply stung Mike. He was hurt by the notion that his good fortune meant he could casually marry anyone. The more he interacted with people, the more he felt this wasn't what he wanted, and his heart grew increasingly despondent. A decisive turning point was the sudden accident involving his parents. It happened in the third year after Mike's promotion. While traveling from their suburban Bay Area home into San Francisco, they were involved in a rear-end collision on Highway 101. Mike rushed to the hospital, desperately trying to save them, but both eventually passed away. In that moment, Mike's world collapsed. Their death was a devastating blow, and the fundamental question, "Why am I living like this?" weighed heavily on him, nearly suffocating him. His family's wealth and his stable engineering career guaranteed him future fortune and fame, but it all felt incredibly hollow. Ultimately, Mike requested a leave of absence from his company. Some might criticize him as irresponsible, but he no longer wanted to follow a path laid out by others. Though he had a spacious house in a desirable neighborhood and substantial bank savings, the home felt empty and lonely without his parents. Mike wished to use his skills and talents for something more meaningful. It was then he learned about the activities of an international NGO that dispatched experts to remote villages in Africa and the Middle East to provide technical support and infrastructure development. Although Mike had little overseas experience and knew no foreign languages besides English, he was convinced that helping those in need with his skills would be a truly valuable life. People around him tried to dissuade him. "Why would you go to such a dirty and dangerous place?" But Mike had made up his mind. He believed that the more dangerous the place, the more his existence would be valued. The sense of loss and pain he experienced back in California fueled his determination. Perhaps this journey was a form of escape, but the thought of providing tangible help to others filled him with immense pride. Within a month of deciding to go to Libya, he completed all preparations. He processed his leave, entrusted his house and assets to a management company, and simply told his friends, "I'm going abroad for a while." Mike arrived in the Kufra region of southern Libya. From Tripoli airport, he traveled for over 10 hours in an NGO vehicle along desolate desert roads to a support center on the edge of an oasis. But Mike's goal was deeper into the remote areas inhabited by nomadic tribes. After completing paperwork and equipment checks at the support center, he learned that a local village needed technical assistance. It had almost no electricity or running water infrastructure, was severely lacking, and they urgently needed expert help. "That's where I need to go," Mike said without hesitation. A few days later, dressed in simple work clothes, carrying a toolkit and a solar panel kit, he boarded an off-road jeep. In the rugged desert, the vehicle frequently got stuck in sand or was nearly engulfed by sandstorms. He had several close calls. But eventually, he reached a small Bedouin tribal village in the Kufra region. Children gathered at the village entrance, curiously observing Mike. NGOs had visited before, and they seemed to regard foreigners as providers of aid. The village elder stepped forward and greeted him in broken Arabic. "Welcome, may Allah bless you." Mike smiled and replied, "I'm from America. I want to help you." The villagers cheered and waved. Soon, a modest welcome ceremony began. The village was poor with no lavish food, but the villagers warmly offered roasted meat and dates. At that moment, Mike felt certain, "Here my sincerity will surely be felt." From the next day, Mike set up a temporary workstation in the village square. He began installing solar panels, repairing wells, and laying simple electrical wires. He didn't know the local language, communicating and collaborating with villagers through gestures and drawings. Power outages, water shortages, lack of supplies, and poor sanitation. These were problems unimaginable in San Francisco. Mike worried that the NGO-provided equipment would be consumed too quickly, requiring a return to the city for resupply. But he was relieved to learn that the center would deliver supplies regularly. Life wasn't easy. Electricity was intermittent, and the well water was murky, undrinkable without filtering. At night, he relied on a single lamp, enduring mosquitoes and sand. Despite this, Mike felt an unusual sense of peace. Unlike the emptiness he felt in California after losing his parents here, though physically exhausted, the fulfillment of helping others and accomplishing something filled his heart. As he adapted to village life, the most significant change was the local women's growing affection for him. Initially wary, they soon warmed up to him. Back in the States, women always asked about his job salary and family background. But here, they were different. "How did you bring light to our village?" they'd ask, amazed, when Mike fixed a broken water pump. They admired his skills and dedication. This pure attitude deeply moved Mike. They opened their hearts to him, not because of his status or for personal gain, but because of what he did, a freshness he found deeply moving. The village was home to several families, with slight variations in language and customs. Although a translator occasionally helped Mike gradually learn the local language, expanding his interactions with the villagers. Among them, 12 women showed particular fondness for Mike. Each possessed a unique charm that captivated him. Sarah, a strong-willed leading woman responsible for the village's livestock and organizing grazing. When Mike first installed solar panels, she organized the villagers into a queue to maintain order. Fatima, a gentle woman with a sweet smile responsible for the children's education, who taught Mike the local language. She would bring him mint tea when he was tired. Aisha, a lively, cheerful woman who loved to joke, got along well with Mike, and often lightened the mood with humor. She occasionally tidied his workstation and advised him not to overwork. Nadia, skilled in dance and song, she led village events. She introduced Mike to Bedouin traditions, helping him understand the local culture. Jasmine Moley, a skilled artisan adept at making carpets and jewelry. She gifted Mike a handmade bracelet and smiled at him. Layla, the village elder's daughter, who held considerable influence. She spoke some English and helped with early communication, enthusiastically introducing Mike to the village's history and customs. Bibi, Luna, Maya, Tina, Leah, Asha. Each with their own distinct charm, they gradually grew close to Mike. Initially, these 12 women were merely curious about the outsider Mike, But after witnessing his dedication to the village, they expressed genuine affection for him. After living in the village for several months and adapting to local life, Mike learned about a particular custom. Due to historical reasons, the male population in this region was small, and thus a culture of polygyny. One man, multiple wives had taken root. This was unimaginable back in America, but here it was a very natural tradition. When Mike expressed his surprise, the elder chuckled, "Our ways of life are different. If a man can love and protect multiple women, it is a blessing." Whereas Mike continued to provide technical support, the village increasingly hoped this outstanding engineer would stay forever. In a village with few men, it was natural for the women to develop feelings for Mike. One day, the elder summoned Mike and asked, "Have you considered marrying women from our village?" Mike was momentarily flustered. "Marry here." Layla translated and explained, "The people of the village consider you very important. If you are willing, you can marry many wives." Faced with this sudden proposal, Mike was deeply conflicted. In America, marrying even one person was a decision taken with great care, let alone marrying multiple women. It was simply unimaginable and illegal. Yet his heart wavered. Back in the States, I only experienced distrust and emptiness. What if I start a new life here? The 12 women made no material demands on him, approaching him with pure affection. "This is illegal in America. It's against everything I've ever known," he initially thought. But as he spent time with the women, he felt their sincerity and his perspective began to change. "When my parents were alive, they always said marriage was about stability and responsibility." But his long-held standards were being shattered. American moral and marital views were entirely different here. "Can I live here forever? Must I return to the States after the NGO's activities end?" But another voice whispered in his ear, "What did you gain in America? Just chasing money and a career, the death of your parents' emptiness. Here I can find true love." Finally, Mike made his decision. "I won't be bound by American conventions. I will live with the people who need me and whom I love." The elder and villagers proposed a ceremony for him to marry multiple wives. It was completely different from any American wedding. At night, villagers lit a bonfire in the square, celebrating with song and dance. Mike wore a traditional Arab robe, and Sarah, Fatima, Aisha, Nadia, Jasmine, Layla, Bibi Luna, Maya, Tina, Leah, and Asha also donned splendid Bedouin attire. As the celebration began, the elder gathered the 12 women and had Mike step forward. After chanting prayers in Arabic, the elder asked, "Will you love and protect them and spend your life with them?" Though nervous, Mike firmly replied, "Yes, I will." The women, through their own rituals, also declared their acceptance of Mike as their husband. Amidst the villagers' applause and cheers, everyone danced and sang late into the night. Under the light of torches and stars, Mike felt an emotion beyond words. 12 wives. Back in the States, they'd call me crazy or worse. But here it's natural. If I love them, then it's not wrong. After marrying, Mike's life changed drastically. Previously focused only on technical support, he now bore the responsibility of being a husband to 12 wives and a head of a family. He still made time to maintain the solar system, manage the well, and lay electrical wires. If equipment was insufficient, he would travel to the city to procure it and buy necessary supplies for the village. Among his wives, Sarah, Jasmine, and Layla primarily managed livestock and livelihoods, herding camels and sheep, making carpets and handicrafts, and selling them at nearby markets. The village environment was harsh, and agriculture wasn't easy, but the wives worked together to achieve self-sufficiency. Mike, with his simple technology, purified well water or repaired broken machinery, increasing the village's productivity. Mike and his 12 wives lived in a space formed by several connected tents. Everyone had their private space, but they would eat and chat together in a common area. Surprisingly, the wives didn't see each other as rivals, but helped one another like sisters. Occasional minor misunderstandings occurred, for instance, if Mike chatted too long with Fatima or forgot to eat a meal Sarah prepared. But they resolved conflicts through dialogue. Here, the tradition of polygyny and a collective spirit of mutual aid were deeply ingrained. Mike learned from them. In America, people think love is just between two people, but here, love is a community responsibility, an extended family life. A few months after the marriage, several wives announced they were pregnant. First, Jasmine's belly began to show, then, Bibi also experienced morning sickness and confirmed her pregnancy. Although Mike was an engineer, he had some basic medical knowledge. While not a professional doctor, he was the most knowledgeable person in the village. He obtained obstetrics materials and equipment through the NGO and helped with birth preparations. As the pregnant wives grew heavier, the other wives shared the livestock care and household chores. There was a tribal philosophy. If someone has a child, then everyone is that child's mother. Mike was moved by such scenes daily. Back in the States, I might have raised a child with just one wife. Here, several are pregnant simultaneously, and the family expands instantly. Though the responsibility is great, the joy far outweighs the fear. Having lost my parents, I've now formed such a large family. Jasmine was the first to give birth. The wives and elders stayed by her side while Mike managed hygiene and basic first aid. Despite the lack of advanced equipment, Jasmine delivered smoothly, and the baby's cry echoed through the tent. Mike shed tears of joy. Subsequently, Bibi Luna and other wives also gave birth. Some labors were longer, but eventually all 12 experienced pregnancy and childbirth concurrently, others staggered. With each birth, Mike relived the moment of becoming a father. The children received both tribal names and American first names given by Mike. With 12 wives and their children, Mike's family became the largest in the village. Besides providing technical support, Mike became the de facto doctor of the village. More and more people came to him for help whenever problems arose. The villagers greatly respected Mike. Knowing he had to provide for 12 wives and their children, they generously offered assistance. Economically, while there was NGO funding and supplies, Mike and his wives strove for self-reliance through livestock and handicrafts. The carpets and jewelry made by the wives were popular at nearby markets and could fetch a considerable income if sold in the city. Mike was deeply moved by the local people's concept of family. A family wasn't just a husband, wife, and children. The entire village was a community where everyone looked after one another. While Mike assisted with births, villagers would help repair tents or acquire scarce supplies from neighboring villages. The wives always raised the children collectively. As the number of children grew, the family rapidly expanded. In the third year of balancing marriage and support activities, Mike received an email from his company asking if he would return to work. Mike hesitated. Should I go back? Should I resume my career in Silicon Valley? But the answer was clear. He had no intention of returning to America. His parents were gone, and all he could get in the States was money and fame. Here he had found true happiness. He simply replied, "Due to certain reasons, it is difficult for me to return. I will continue to provide technical support here." He also renewed his long-term contract with the NGO. He hadn't completely forgotten America. Sometimes he'd recall memories of his parents and friends in California. But Mike's life was now centered in the Kufra region. Life with 12 wives and numerous children was never smooth sailing. During busy times, he wished he could clone himself. Minor emotional conflicts would arise among the wives. If drought struck and livestock died, they faced food shortages. Mike would use his savings to buy food from the city, but he knew that in the long run, the village's self-sufficiency had to improve. He once contracted malaria, and when the children fell ill, he would care for them day and night. He worried about major disease outbreaks in the harsh environment, but he felt, this is what a real family striving together is like. Back in the States, individuals often have to bear problems alone, but here, the wives and the village solve them together. Time passed, and when the children were around 6, they would run around the village proudly saying, "Daddy saved our village." Seeing his children, Mike would smile. He wanted to provide basic education for the children. Sarah and Layla had already learned to read and write. Mike, along with the villagers, renovated an abandoned warehouse and established a simple school. Children and adults could learn basic literacy, hygiene, and technical skills there. As news of the village spread through NGO and external volunteer visits, well repairs and solar power facilities were introduced. Mike and the villagers provided labor, improving their lives through external funding. He understood that what mattered wasn't just aid, but respecting local culture and developing together. Now fewer people called Mike engineer or Mr. Anderson. He was considered part of the village family. Thoughts of returning to America had vanished. This life had become his norm. Supporting 12 wives and children was not easy. Such a life was unimaginable back in the States. Occasionally, the thought, what if I had lived an ordinary life in California, would cross his mind, but the smiles of his wives and children would reinvigorate him. They had shown him the joy of living together, not pursuing material wealth. He moved through the village repairing machines, helping the injured, having found a new path in life. In San Francisco, he worked with cutting-edge equipment, but here he helped others with basic tools and knowledge. He realized, technology is just a tool to help humanity, nothing more. Nearing 60, a friend of Mike's from his Silicon Valley days visited the village through the NGO. When he saw Mike living with 12 wives and children, he was utterly shocked. How is this possible? Mike? This is insane. Mike calmly said, I was flustered at first too, but there's a different culture and sincerity here. The distrust and emptiness I experienced back in California were healed here. I am truly happy now. Though still incredulous seeing Mike laughing with his wives and children, the friend conceded, well, I guess this is also a way of life. Today, Mike Anderson continues to protect the village with his 12 wives and numerous children. He wakes to birdsong in the morning, and in the evening, everyone gathers around a bonfire to share the day's events. If someone falls ill, he rushes to help. If there's a joyous occasion, everyone celebrates together. This is his second life, his true life. Mike Anderson started a new life in the Kufra region with his 12 wives and many children. What are your thoughts on this unique love story? Please share them in the comments section. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Your support is our driving force.